Good evening, everybody who's here. Welcome. And to everybody that will be watching on YouTube or Facebook later. I'm Dharmendra Gordon, and this is Begin Synergy Meditation meeting number 25. I invite all of you now to just take a moment to release and relax and let go of whatever your day's been about, and it'll be there when you get back to it. No worries. So for now, just give yourself permission to take a kind of mini vacation and let's get into ourselves and get into what's going on in the inner world that we can obviously share with each other in the outer world. And so just notice your body and where you're at, where you're sitting, how you feel in your body, what your body's telling you. Just go to those places that need your attention right now and notice any sounds that may be happening or no sound if there's no sound. And whatever your eyes are taking in, and if your eyes are closed, just be aware of what your eyes are taking in with your eyes closed. And if you feel like taking a deep breath, or two or three, or if you just feel like being still for a moment and letting your energies just sort of open up and kind of expand and just absorb the presence of the universal life force, which is everywhere and connecting all of us and connecting us into the earth, into the sky, into the sun, and to all the beings we share this planet with. And from that sense of interconnectedness, the theme of the 14th life code, which is our life code tonight, is empowerment. With the shadow of strife and discounted experience, the gift is the circle of excellence and thriving, and the siddha is the locus of manifestation, the cornucopia. The skill to empower your life to unfold in the most optimal way in harmony with your true direction that is arising as a result of continuously providing for all the necessities of a material existence is what this life code is about. Real prosperity is when your evolutionary spiritual path and your way of earning a livelihood are in alignment and together serve as the platform for engaging with the world and every living being in it from the authentic sharing and true expression of your heart. It is not so much that you have the perfect job or material situation, as it is that whatever you do to maintain your planetary existence is carried out with care and attentiveness, as it is your opportunity to contribute to the greater whole of which we are all a part. The work we do that is visible to others is only the container or outer shell for the real work that takes place through our energy field, where we transmit the frequency of our vibration, and it is this which impacts everything around us, and is the real contribution that we make in service of the greater whole. At the shadow frequency of this life code, much of what we could offer has been part of the baggage we carry around with us called discounted experience. Due to the influences we absorbed and were impacted by during our upbringing, we have been conditioned to see things in a certain way, and not at all in the way we would naturally have perceived them had we been left to our own devices. This sets up a condition of internal strife, as we are trained to go against our better judgment and distrust our natural instincts, so that we are constantly having to settle for less. And this process sets us up for constantly having to make compromises in relation to how we creatively maintain our lifestyles. Again, due to the influences of our early conditioning, we've been taught that things have to be a certain way in order to be acceptable, which puts us in the position of discounting our experience in the face of what we encounter and compromising who we are in favor of the so-called right way. This is living life from the lowest common denominator at the bare minimum, and in fact barely resembles anything even approaching the term alive and living. Hiding behind the facade of what is deemed societally acceptable, that is determined and maintained through various cultural enactments under the authority of the powers that be, has come to be the norm of the vast majority of humanity that is completely unaware of its intentionally inculcated herd-like behavior and mannerisms. And it is all designed to work perfectly within the tightly scripted rules and regulations of the 9-to-5 world of the modern-day corporateocracy, where there's no space to be anything other than the perfect little productive automaton of whatever your job title happens to be. Real living experience has become sacrificed to the relentless gods of that ever so illusory progress that serves to feed the never-ending greed of those at the top of the corporate hierarchy. And as those at the top control the resources, they also set up the rules of the game, slanted heavily in their favor by the lawmakers through their lobbyists to gain maximum benefit at the expense of their employees. And this is most of what the modern day working world looks like, as it is filled with strife and compromise, arising out of a collective pool of what instead of resources is a field of filling the positions in their company that in the end serve their interests and their lifestyle. That is the super rich. In other words, they only care about themselves. And it is this attitude that trickles down throughout the whole company, infecting everyone's psyche. And it is this attitude that keeps this shadow locked firmly in place. In order to move beyond this trap of attention, set up and maintained by the system to keep everyone living at a minimum, requires the ability to step outside this state of identification with one's position in the hierarchy and see beyond the false comfort offered by the participation in the group's herd-like consciousness of this corporation or company. This life code is about having the resources necessary to support the direction of the self and the unraveling of its own self-revelation. In the human design body graph, which is the map of the blueprint of our genetic code, this life code is part of those tantric channels that connect the sacral center to the center of our identity. It is responsible for synchronizing with the universal life force in such a way that it puts us in touch with the keys to our own uniqueness, so that we can contribute to the whole as ourselves through the use of those very keys. Hence, in this context, the term Tantra means synchronicity with the universal life force, and it is just such an attunement that allows the individual to grow, thrive, and prosper. It is the universal life force that gives animation in alignment with intelligence to all living creatures. The gift and genius inherent in this life code opens one up to the ever-increasing ability to tap into the generated field of the universal life force with a greater and greater degree of competence. True prosperity lies in the depth of growth taking place in the individual as they earn their livelihood by doing that which makes them feel more alive. It is directly connected with the occurrence of synchronicities appearing in one's life. And as the source of all synchronicities lies in the direct action of the universal life force as it ushers in all variety of living beings, it is no wonder that as one trusts more and more this mysterious origin of all life and learns to surrender to wherever its current leads, one is constantly being taken into places that support, enhance, enliven, and empower the true and authentic unfolding of one's creative power to transform any situation into one with the greatest possible benefit for all concerned. To become a true vehicle for the expression of the universal life force through the uniqueness of one's individuality in such a way that all who encounter one's presence are immediately put in touch with the keys to their own uniqueness is within the domain of the siddha of this life code. When one is living out of the pure intent of any life code, the intent of that life code will immediately transfer into the energetic field of any being that is encountered, resulting in the instantaneous activation of that life code in the being encountered. This being is a cornucopia of beneficent synchronicities that opens a portal for all beings to fully manifest and as a result prosper in the world through the keys of their own uniqueness. This life code is where the origin of the term bounteousness of spirit arises, as it is out of original spirit that all things have come into existence. and only that which is real makes its appearance through that originator. And as the one who is embodying the siddha of this life code is attuned to that original spirit through the actions of the universal life force, they act in such a way as to draw out what is real and true in every being they meet. It is as if they are a mirror in which any individual can see the actual keys that they have been endowed with in this life, and not just as a vision, but as a living force desirous of action in the material realms. So what started out as one being attuning to the promptings of the universal life force to express their uniqueness as a livelihood now becomes the locus of manifestation, a cornucopia, for the generation of that space through the intent of this life code that allows any being to receive the keys to the resources they need to manifest their unique livelihood as the vehicle of their authenticity. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool. And that's the end of the life coach sharing. And now I'll just start sharing from the shadow space of discounted experience. I think I'm going to go start out collective, and it may get back into my individual experience. But as I look out into the world, I'm noticing that so much of what goes for what's acceptable in the world is based on the vast majority of individuals discounting their own experience and going along with whatever the authority figure happens to be in whatever part of the world they're in, and trusting in that. And it could even be the figure of authority for a person could even be a movie star, other than, or a sports star or whatever. It's people have a strange way of putting themselves second in the face of a person who appears to be on the outside successful. And Lord knows how they are actually on the inside. And that kind of success isn't necessarily prosperity, because what I see is that people are just driven by the circumstances they're raised in, and many people are raised in high society, and they just do what they've been programmed to do. And it seems like a vast majority of people that are in high society, super rich, seem to be the most miserable people in the world, because they control the resources on this planet, and this planet has got so much suffering going on in it. So I couldn't imagine those people being very happy, even with all the money in the world they have, so they're not prosperous, because there is no sense of joy and a sense of, being who they are. They're just basically a product of whatever whatever genetic tree they came out of from their ancestors that was always rich and always had all the resources. And so that has, of course, in my life, put me up against many different challenges when it came to wanting to enact what truly brings me joy, and being in a world where it was so much more easy to just go out and get that 9-to-5 job, and at least have that false security of the 9-to-5 daily. And I say false security because, in the sense that can end just as quickly as an entrepreneur who every day is facing that everything could end. There's no guarantee. So it's really a false security, because any type of livelihood could end at any moment. So that's always been right there in front of me, a great challenge to have to see how much of my power was given up in my life to not counting the kind of experiences that I've had in my life that not only bring me joy, but what I'm finding more and more, especially through these type of meetings, bring a lot of potential for others to step into a space where they can also experience their joy. And I'll leave it at that, because to go any further would be to start to get into the gift. So, and whoever would like to share this, and this is strife and discounted experience. That's the shadow. And the key itself is empowerment. So we're basically, with the shadow, it's about discounting your experience in relation to your own power to bring forth and materialize your life in harmony with your heart. So that's what we're sharing at the shadow space. Is anybody out there? Oh, there's Sarah. Maybe she's going to go.
I'm here, but I'm not speaking right now. I'm just listening. But thank you. It was beautiful.
Oh, okay. I just saw you pop back on. We could see you again, so I didn't know. So, is anybody out there that would like to share this about this challenging shadow of compromise and discounted experience?
Yeah, I'll share. Um, so right now I'm currently going through the process of trying to find work um, during this whole pandemic because yeah, I have like a move lined up. I'm not moving far from home. I'll just be down the street, but I need to start getting a job, and this is a pretty interesting time to be looking for work. Um, and so I've been dealing with some like internal frustration at like going through all the different jobs and seeing what needs to be done and what's considered essential, and kind of feeling a little like disheartened by the experience uh, of going through and seeing what jobs are there. And it's hard because I want to find something that aligns with my values, uh, and yeah, I mean, I guess that's the big thing is I want to find something that aligns with my values. Uh, but sometimes it feels like I have to sacrifice that just for necessity, and then on top of that, I kind of feel like um, I feel critical of a lot of places that are hiring, and so it's hard for me to want to go to them and offer my work in exchange for money, because it feels like I'm condoning something that I myself like wouldn't start, um, like Taco Bell, like that wouldn't be me, um, and yeah, I don't know. For me, there's like some frustration that goes along with the strife, and I know it's that way for some other people I know, uh, and I think just the general populace, like it's really easy to get like disenchanted when you feel like what you want to do in your heart doesn't matter, or that you shouldn't even bring that into account when you're looking for work. Uh, yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, thank you, Evan. Isn't it funny that the very gene code inside of us that's about our direction and how to empower it in the world is probably one of the most stepped on things that all of us humans have to experience in a world like this, where there's an incredible imbalance of resources to the top end, and such a blind, insatiable greediness that will stop at nothing to keep itself, um, unbelievably, you know, in charge of all those resources, and just insatiable greed. And so it's just amazing that the very place we want to step into to express ourselves and bring ourselves to the table is just so conditioned, so heavily conditioned, so put down upon, so controlled, so shut down. So thank you, Evan, for sharing your your feelings of frustration and other things as you're about to step into a world like that. I'll wait till we get to the gift before I offer some insights that I've had to develop over the years in my being in the 9 to 5 world so much in my life, and but I'll share that at the gift phase of how I use that to develop my path and my path of awakening. But in the
Sweet.
meantime,
I would love to hear that.
yeah, but I'll wait till the gift because that's where that'll come. So thank you, Evan. Who would like to share this rather dicey topic next? And don't worry if as in your case, Adriana, you're not old enough to have a job yet. You still have to empower yourself in the world materially and express yourself through physical creations and things like that. So you can also, and I'm sure you already understand that. So you can contribute. And maybe, I don't know if you've had a job or have jobs. And it's not really so much about a job as it is about empowering your life in the material world, and that you thrive and feel joy in what you contribute to the world through your actions. So that's the bigger picture. But that comes out a lot in how we earn our livelihood as we get older. So I'll be quiet now if somebody else would like to open this one up. Denise, beautiful.
I don't mind talking about dicey. I mean, I've gone through quite a bit of strife or compromise in my life, and maybe I'll just turn off my video so I can close my eyes and talk more real. For one, the job world was always, like getting a job just to make money, even though I feel towards a certain thing. But also, I've been working with Tantra, and a little bit of my sexuality was compromised at an early age as a child, or it was a strife experience for me. So it was something that I've been working through still to this day and age, and I've become into deep discovery, but it's not being my true potential in my sexuality, not allowing it to bloom or to be resonant to myself because of holding it back for fear that people are going to take it, or they're gonna from the guy side, that they're gonna want me too much, and that they're going to try to take something from me and then trying to hide it, so I have to compromise my own inner feeling of joy and bliss in life. And then, fear from the women that if I am in my joy, that they'll be jealous and they'll be upset with me. And then if there's a guy that likes me, that they won't let me have them. And those are all experiences that I've had, like where I haven't had children or a partner of love for multiple reasons, either because some woman was trying to take the man away from me and I wasn't allowed to have him, or I was compromising my own sensuality because I was trying to hide so that the women wouldn't be jealous and the men wouldn't take. And it's just really created kind of like a deep sadness that I never got to be my full expression of self because society didn't I didn't find a safe way to do it in society. I think women that have like older brothers or mothers or dads or something that protect them, they get kind of a feeling that it's safe to be embodied. But there's a lot of men and women who don't feel safe to be embodied, so they end up compromising their natural innate embodiment, which is naturally, I think we're naturally kind of sexual expressive beings, and that's just one. We're heartful, we're mindful, but we're also sexual. But there's some people go overboard and they either overexpress it, and some people hide it. And it seems like there's like those two extremes, but there's not a lot of people that are actually healthy in their sexuality and in their expression, or maybe they are, but I'm kind of making a fusion of that now that I'm older, of like knowing all that expression that I've missed. And also that I've seen some really amazing different people around the world that are holding different parts of, whether it's the heart or the libido or the mind, putting them all together makes a full totality of being. And I think that humanity in general is compromising and in strife of their light body being. And so because it's not, there's no platforms or spaces that can really help them be in tune with themselves completely, and it's not safe, or it's taken for granted, or it's used, or it's wanted to be put towards business you know, how many women that are sexy are asked to be high class or hookers or to sell their body. And so it's just, why can't we just walk around in nature and be, you know what, when I touch the ground with my feet, I feel the ground and it reverberates through my entire body, and that is an undulation of bliss and joy, of connection with the an intimacy of earth and my embodied space on earth, in earth, and with all the beings that I connect with. And so how can that be, how can we live not compromising our expression of being on all levels, and be safe and protected and taken care of, and in love with who we are in our bubble. And I would say that it also happened in the job world, but I'm really looking at the tantra and the expression of being right now.
Thank you, Denise. That brings up a really good point about why we say livelihood, because the same energy that Denise is discussing that comes through sensuality, sexuality, is also missing in doing work in the world. Because originally, before all this technology, we were very in touch with the earth when we worked. And that was a sensuous experience that we have, and animals show it all the time, just in the way they connect in the world. So that quality of sensuality and the sexual energy is also, if looked at neutrally, it's our creative force, it's our creative power. And so what this life code is pointing to is directing that, allowing that creative power to help us and direct us and support us and interact with us and participate with us in our life direction. And I think what Denise was hinting at is that the most conditioned place in us as human beings on this planet at this time is our sexuality. And it's the cause of so much of our feeling of lifelessness and everything else. And so to tap back into that and to heal that I think would create a very different planet and the way we would express how we come together and create a society and everything else on all levels, from the sexual to the deep, to the superconscious, the whole spectrum. So thank you, Denise, for bringing out that side of it, because that is definitely a major part of this life code also. So who else would like to share?
I can share. A lot of the strife that I've been feeling lately, especially in these past couple days, has been coming from outside of myself, I think, because I'm really involved in the world of activism and racial justice and all of those things. And so what's been really heavy on my heart is all of the police brutality that's been happening. And, like, I'm finding myself seeing it everywhere. Like, I go onto my phone, I check my social media, it's there. I watch the TV, it's there. I went to Walmart and they changed the handicap spots to a place for law enforcement to park. And so it's just like all of these reminders of like just all the injustice that's happening right now. And I guess like the helplessness that I feel surrounding it. Like, these are people in places that I don't live near. Like, George Floyd happened in Minneapolis. Ahmaud Arbery, I don't remember, but it wasn't here. Like, all of these are just like people that I want to help and systems that I want to change, but like I can't. And so I think that's a lot of the strife that's going on with me right now, because I am just seeing like a lot of death and like a lot of pain, and like can't do anything. And so that's like, that's the thing. I mean, you know, I make calls, I sign petitions, like every hour my email inbox is flooded with different things, and there are like 5 new petitions every day, and like all of these things, and like I know they help, but it just feels like all of the petitions I sign, all of the calls that I make, all of the emails that I send, like it's not going to change the systemic racism and suppression. Like that's the problem. And I can't do anything about it. And so like seeing the strife of other people, I think, is what causes me so much strife. And like I want to be there to help empower other people, like you were saying. And like I feel empowered to act on it because like my empowerment is the desire to stop seeing other people hurt. And so like I feel empowered. I want other people to feel empowered to like do big things. Like I want the right people to be running for office. Like I want the right chiefs of police who will actually bring justice into the systems. Like, and I can't, like I don't have control over that. Like, and so I think that's the main strife right now.
Thank you, Adriana. That was, as always, very wisely put for one so youthful. Lots of insight into what you say. You have a lot of wisdom, so that's refreshing. One thing I'll just address really quickly before we get to the next person who feels like sharing is that the powers that be have kind of put themselves in a funny position because, as you have so aptly demonstrated, the world we are living in is the abuse of power is phenomenal. And it's happening all over the place. But what is starting to turn the tables are these kind of meetings, and they're happening more and more frequently all over the planet. And the problem is the powers that be can't step on this because the way the world's set up right now is if they step on this, they also step on themselves, because the powers that be are also depending on this platform now because everybody's in a pandemic and has to stay. And so the more they do their pandemic, the more we're going to be empowered to do these kind of meetings. And the more we're going to start to figure out ways, because it's happening. I tell you, I'm in other meetings that were already starting to gather force for awakening and enlightenment in the world as human beings in every facet of life, from feeding ourselves to the way we work, to the way we raise everything, to the way we raise children, to the way we distribute resources, all of it. And there's a whole other world that's starting to emerge. And so, and there's no way they can stop it, because if they stop it, they also stop themselves, because they got themselves in a pickle. But the problem is they don't realize the big picture is phasing them out. This whole way the power structure is, the big astrological, huge ages, cycles, it's coming to an end for them, and they know it. And that's why they're trying to make it look like it's getting worse, when what's happening is it's their last dying gasp, where they're going to give it all they got, because they know after that they're not going to have any force behind them anymore from Mother Nature. It's not going to be there. And what's coming in the future is entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the way of the future. Even if it doesn't look like it, and it looks like a lot of small businesses, it's a fake, it's a blind. Don't believe it, because what's coming is what Mother Nature wants. She's already proving that. It's not what not even what the most powerful people on this planet. They're like gnats when it comes to Mother Nature. Mother Nature's like, yeah, you think think Mr. Rothschild or Mr. Rockefeller or Mr. Chase or Mr. Morgan, or you think you know it, poof. They could be gone in a poof like that, with Mother Nature barely adjusting her, left toe. So something else is coming. But it's good to be aware of and realize the things you're feeling, because that's Mother Nature needs to feel that. And the only way she could do that is when we are honest with how we're feeling about this abuse of power. So really beautiful what you shared. Who would like to share next?
I can pipe in a little bit. Was that Adriana who just spoke? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It just takes
Oh,
me a
okay.
moment to move my cursor, and yeah, that was
Oh,
it. It was
oh,
That was Adriana. Yes, that.
Adriana, that was so sweet. And I was sitting here really, really feeling your, or empathizing with your pain. And, but I want to say that what you do and what we do, it does make a difference. And I think about what helps me is I think about things like how when women were first fighting for the right to vote, they were thrown in jail. And imagine not, being some of those women and not having any idea what was really going to happen. And for your efforts, you were thrown in jail. And yet, truth persisted. And just like what our Darminder, am I saying it right? Sorry not to say your name. Mr. Climate Healer is there. That truth will prevail, and it's like the last hurrah. And I feel that too. And I feel so strongly that a vegan world is possible. But I think most people are going to go into it kicking and screaming. And unfortunately, I think people are going to have to be forced to stop eating animals. But there does need to be a replacement. Just like, people stopped riding horses when cars were invented, and I use that a lot. You can't just get people to, unfortunately, it's not enough. All of the, the horrors and then all of the joys of living vegan and all of that together. I think for most people it's going to have to be a rude awakening. And it started to be, I mean, all these major mainstream media who some people are certain about, like everything that comes out of them is a lie. I don't think so, but so many articles about how, ending meat production or going plant-based, at least going that way. And it's like article after article after article. And it's pretty incredible to see that in, mainstream media to the extent that it is now. But it's very sad because I know more people will die. And that's kind of what it's going to take to get people to turn around, I think, in as quickly as we need it, in the volume as we need. But it is very heartbreaking what's happening right now, and the injustices that are going on. And all we can do is just keep fighting the good fight. But we do really need to know that our efforts are definitely making a difference. And that's really important to really see that, to feel that, to know that. Because otherwise it can seem so helpless, But I do think about that time and think about Rosa Parks. We all know who she was, the woman who refused to go to the back of the bus. And she had been working in the Black liberation movement for quite a while. And that was a very planned event. I read up about it. And she probably knew she was going to get arrested. But just think of what society was like then, that somebody would get arrested because they were supposed to sit in the back of a bus. And what craziness. It's, we just have different forms of craziness going on right now. But, one of the traps of our society is people think that we live in a civilized society. We know we don't, but that's part of the tragedy, that the horrors are still hidden. And yet this pandemic has actually exposed some of the dark underbelly that people haven't seen before of animal agriculture, and how thoroughly cruel it is to the people. So, and I say this to a lot of people, the food industry doesn't care about us, so what advantage do they think the animals have? Because so many people want to think that they can be treated nicely, and make it okay. But what we're doing does make a difference. Absolutely, it does. And then even being here, I always feel that these, I look forward so much to these meetings with this group, and it always feels very healing, very cleansing, and so reassuring. So thank you. Oh, sorry if I rambled on there.
Nancy, I love when you talk. You're so interesting every time. It's always a journey to listen to, and I mean that. You always bring up. You're very well thought out. So you and I feel like you really know what you're talking about. And and what I wanted to or what the insight I got out of that, to synthesize that, is basically this the very culture of disempowerment that's basically what we all have to put up with, and we all have to discount our experiences to put up with that culture of disempowerment by some of the individuals I just named and the other 46 families or whatever it is that own most of the planet. But they don't own anything. They've just taken it by force against our will without even asking our permission, which is going to have serious consequences for them down the road. But meanwhile, we have to eat that. And so we live in a world where we all have to deal with strife, which is misalignment with who we truly are because of the unbelievably distorted and deranged and just, destructive environment we live in, an atmosphere and all of it. And if you're any even the least bit awake, you pick up the discordant frequencies, and I mean, I said something recently, and I'll stand behind it, and that's basically, in terms of the future, there's only two types of people that are gonna make it: those that are waking up and those that are already awake. And I said it very honestly, and I don't remember it was on where I said it, but basically the people, if you're not one of those two categories, and that includes the super rich, you're going to be fertilizer. Bottom line, you either wake up or you're waking up, because that's what Mother Nature needs now, because she's evolving, and we have no choice as a very small part of Mother Nature. Even as humanity as a whole, we're just, in terms of all the other life forms, we're just a small little part. But the point is everything is evolving right now. So if you don't wake up, if you're not already awake, then it's going to be a short ride for you. You got to go back to the beginning of the line and start over. Single cells kind of experience or whatever. Fertilizer, I don't know. It's true though, it just is. And not many people will say that because it sounds like it's not very loving or this or that, but it's the truth. And sometimes, and at this point, at this juncture, on this planet, with this much nonsense going on, people need to be shaken hard, because that's compassion. That's compassion. Because if there's any possibility in anybody waking up, then they have a chance to get through this and can continue to grow and evolve. But nature's at a very intense point right now where she has to really draw a line. And a lot of the mystical teachers over the last century or two, and even before, have been talking about this. But it's even just becoming more obvious and apparent now, because systems based on greed and disempowerment are minimizing systems. Ultimately, that minimization is going to come back to the source of the people generating that, and they will destroy themselves simply through their own actions and the way the discordant frequencies that they are creating. They think they're, doing whatever they're doing out there and it's all good for them. But that's just a very short range view. Eventually, the tidal wave of what they've created will rebound back. It's going to hit some limit and come back to them. So, and that may take some time. We may not even see it in, maybe Adriana will see it in her lifetime a little bit, but most of us, I don't, and Evan, but and maybe Kali too, but the rest of us, I don't know. We're a bit older, and maybe Lucy also. She's a little younger than Kali. And hi, Kali. When you popped in, I didn't say hello, so I'm glad you're here. Who else would like to share on this subject?
Hello. I can share. Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Adriana and Denise. Really, as always, it's so amazing hearing you all speak. It's just, I'm the same as you, Nancy. I really look forward to these meetings every week. And yeah, Adriana, I totally feel you. I really resonate. I empathize. But it also really gives me a lot of hope and a lot of, I'm excited for the future, because I feel like the more people wake up to it and realize that veganism, animal rights, animal liberation is inherently tied into exploitation of human beings and, race rights, all these different things. It's an intersection, if I can use that word, of so many different systems of exploitation and disempowerment. And I feel like the future of, well, I feel like personally, I feel like probably one of the main ways that we're going to actually achieve a vegan world is through connecting people with this message of consistent anti-oppression. If we're against oppression of animals, if we're against oppression of different races, of different sexualities, gender identities, it all kind of comes under this banner of like consistent compassion. To me, that's how I feel, that's how I see it. So the more people understand that there are human rights issues related to animal rights, I think people are going to more people are going to be brought into understanding veganism and absorbing and embodying an anti-speciesist standpoint, or anti-speciesism, which I feel inherently would lead them to being vegan if they fully understand that. And if they fully understand consistent anti-oppression, then that's going to lead to a vegan world a lot more easily and just better for everybody, because we care about people. We care about the people who work in the slaughterhouses. We don't want them to be doing that for the animals' sake, but also for their sake. So yeah, it gives me hope that a lot more people are, I think, seeing that there are human rights issues, and alongside, obviously, like, the animals obviously need to be spoken up for, because, and I see this in so many different circles, so many different groups, is that people do forget about the animals. And it upsets me. It makes me really angry. But I think it's heartening for me to see that there are other angles that people can be brought into seeing animals more, hearing their voices more, from being plant-based, from caring about humans in different ways. So yeah, and also, Denise, I also really wanted to say thank you for bringing up what you did, because I fully resonate with that myself as well. It's really, it's not an easy world for anybody to exist in. And I feel like the future is, the empowered female is going to be a massive part of the future. And we really have to be allowing ourselves to embody, who we really are, and connect with all aspects of our beings, all elements of who we are. And I've come through a very similar journey, I think, in terms of wanting to be able to express myself, but having this fear of judgment from all sorts of, everybody. But I also wanted to share quickly, you might laugh, Dharmendra, as you were reading the explanation of today, I was shuffling my animal spirit cards, and the one that just flopped out onto the ground was the peacock prosperity. So I just wanted to share that. It's been a super interesting week for me. It's been an awesome week, and prosperity wise, I don't have an income apart from my art and some Patreon, a few donations. And I wasn't really looking for any artwork. I wasn't looking for commissions, but something's just kind of been dropped in front of me from heaven. It's, after so many months of not really making any money, this week it's just, it's appeared, and I'm super excited about that. So, but I'll get into that in my gift probably. So that's me for now.
Thank you, Lizzie. Beautiful. I want to speak to the hope too, just because some of the things I was saying in relation to this life code at the shadow level are pretty, can be pretty disheartening, all that disempowerment stuff. But it's a good thing to realize that the reason, not only that it's that all this darkness and the evil from the powers that be is being, well, not only is it being exposed right now, and it's kind of hard for most of us to swallow, everything from racism to sexism to speciesism to elitism to every kind of ism that is just that. And we even have a guy here who's pretending that he's the head of our country, who's pretty much the representative of all of them. I don't know how they found that guy. He's like the darkest thing I've ever seen, and he's just, the powers that be are loving it right now, but they don't realize what they're doing, because the only way that, and it's been around for hundreds of years, even in America. And the only reason it survived is because it was secret. There was no this. There was no exposure through the internet and the World Wide Web, and thank God for all that stuff and Silas's part in it too, building the backbone of it. He's a genius. But you know, now that it's being exposed, when it gets exposed, that's why I say there's not much time left for them, because when you expose it, that's it. It only, when things are dark, they only can subsist. Our dark habits to ourselves are bad tendencies, like people who smoke or drink too much or do too much drugs or overeat or whatever they do. That only can continue if it's unconscious. You start to bring things, the dark, into the conscious, and it's going to dissipate it, because awareness has a funny way of dissolving anything that isn't real and increasing what is real. And that's just a principle of the work of awakening, the path of awakening since forever. So that's not something that's going to change. That's part of the way the universe works and what keeps it cohesive and coherent and cogent and congruent and all those beautiful C words and creative and conscious, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the hope, and you did a kind of a nice synthesis of a lot of what was said before you with this topic. Let's see. I'm not sure if anybody else will see. The space is open if anybody else wishes to share on this note.
I raised my hand to share.
Please do.
Oh, hey, Lucy, and nice to meet you, Adriana. I really enjoyed what Adriana said, because I was probably like many people when we are vegan activists get into that kind of feeling that we can't be out there doing open rescue or whatever we want to be doing and helping get these animals out, these babies, basically, these babies. And then Lucy, I'm really happy for you because you just became more abundant with your artwork, and it's very good. I'm very happy that you manifested that in your blessing ball to happen. Hopefully you did that. And what I wanted to say is there's some good news. I put it in the chat that I was actually shocked and wasn't even expecting it because I don't watch mainstream media, but I found out about it through Jane by moderating her radio show today for Jane Unchained News, and she broke a story that broke last night on CNN, and so we finally got CNN to cover something. So they covered 1,000 egg-laying hens being rescued by Animal Place Sanctuary. And the rescue was May 16th, but they just came out with the story came out on their website, but in the media it came out just last night. And the fact that even though they said they were depopulating them and they were using all these, of course, speciesist language, as we know, that's okay because they did a story and that was big. So we really need to spread it all around. If you guys can share it all around and this, that, and the other, that'd be great, because the whole thing is that this is the beginning, and we all know that this is the beginning of Vegan World 2026. We know that give or take a year, because of the new species is going to be coming in, and that Dr. Rao was saying that the new species is going to be us reborn, people reborn as vegans, or us, coming into the metamorphosis of they're now butterflies. And that's why, all this stuff is, we are going to have a vegan world. Not everybody in the world will be vegan, but we are going to a vegan world because we just don't even have a choice. Just like Dharmendra said, there's only so much evil that can be sustained before, it's like you're going through all this and then just something has to change. So it's coming, no matter how it has to happen, it just has to happen. And that's what I wanted to say about that. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I had a question about permafrost, but I just thought maybe Dharmendra might know something about permafrost, because I was reading a bunch of stuff and I was watching Endgame 2050, but I didn't get through all of it. But they were talking about the methane under the layer of permafrost and how that's really, really, really dangerous. And that's going to be a big problem, even though we've got, of course, animal agriculture #1, as proven by the white paper. So I just wanted to know if you wanted to address that in this or another time, but I'd like to find out about the methane in the permafrost, because that kind of was like really sort of like substantially concerning me. One sec.
That's an interesting thing to be concerned about. And my specialty in science, unlike Dr. Rao, who probably could really give a lot more on this than I could, because mine is more of the science of the spiritual as opposed to the science of the climate. And you know, even though he's an engineer, obviously easily translated into what he does now. The only thing I can see is that, like everything that hasn't happened yet, there's always going to be guesswork in whatever these scientists are predicting. And so who knows really where that's going to get, or what the purpose of it might be. I mean, there are so many possibilities that come out of something like that. I mean, Mother Nature might use it as a way to create a vacuum to move the poles. Who knows? I mean, there's so many different possibilities out of things that could happen with a buildup of methane like that, because Mother Nature just, unless it's absolutely necessary, isn't going to kill us all with methane. So there may be some other type of cosmic process we don't even know about. And I just threw out the thing about spinning the poles because that's out there also, in terms of, and a lot of times poles have moved in relation to mass extinction events on this planet, and there's geological evidence for that. So that might have something to do with it, and that's about as good as I can come up with on that, because really that's not an area that I really feel qualified to say a whole lot about, except maybe to speculate some things that we maybe think we know, but maybe there are things we really don't know, and we don't know what the purpose of those things are, because obviously that methane is there, and the warming of the planet is supposed to happen. The reason it's heating up too, which nobody really talks about, but the creator of human design knew about it, is that we're all heating up, because as our consciousness raises, our body temperature goes up. So a part of what is actually happening with the heating up of this planet isn't just all those other things, it's every living form is running hotter. So that's something that may, and the other thing is also about a new species coming. It's only those of us that, like I was saying, either wake up or make sure you're on the path to waking up, because it's only the butterflies or those who are in chrysalis that are going to be able to welcome the actual new being that is actually going to come through us, that is going to be a whole nother species than us, although it may look just like us, and that's in 2027. That's why I think it's so fascinating that he chose 2026, because if we can't make it to 2026, there will be no new mutation that's going to come in and upgrade everything, including us. But it is something that's not a human, it's rave, and a rave is something that will function with 3 to 5 consciousnesses as one entity. And I could only imagine what something that's 3 to 5 consciousness, when it comes together in perfect synchronicity, it's probably 100 times more powerful than a single human. So that's what's coming. That's what's coming down the pike. So it is actually a new species. But those of us that are butterflies and on chrysalis, which is the stage between caterpillar and butterfly, are the ones that are, and that's why I say the rest are pretty much going to be, fertilizer, because that high of a frequency, anything else that isn't on the way to awakening won't be able to handle it. Will not be able, animals will be fine, because animals aren't out of touch with nature. They'll just flow with whatever. But humans who are already, either not on the path of awakening or waking up, which is the natural course for what a human should be, but not on this planet. The vast majority they're distorted in their auras and their process of growth of their consciousness because of the disempowering influences and every other thing we do in our shadow aspect of all of our meetings. There's 64 of them, so there's a lot of things going down that. And so unfortunately, it's really, really going to behoove people to start, looking into waking up and becoming more aware, what they call woke. At minimum, just be woke, meaning at least know what's going on in the world. At least get it that far. If you don't get it past the physical, at least be woke physically to what's going on in the material world. And it looks, is your hand up?
Would you say that it's like vegan Darwinism or something like that? Could you even say that?
vegan Darwinism. Well, yeah, you could, but I don't like Darwin in what he does
I
because
know.
it does
I knew you were.
it
I know that. I know
because
that.
it's
But I'm trying to
because
think
it
of another way to term it.
yeah,
That
but
sort
I
of like.
I get what you're saying, and yes,
Yeah.
it is the
Yeah.
vegan that's going to be like homo veganist to the whatever the next thing that's the rave that's coming. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Sarah. I mean, I just because I don't like necessarily Darwin and his whole thing doesn't mean I don't agree with the evolutionary, you thing that's implied in all that. All right, so I
Can
think
you explain what you mean by a rave and briefly
a
tell us?
rave is a whole different. It's basically got all the same genes we do, but the way that the rave is going to use those genes is very different than the way we use our genes. It's basically the same
Oh,
genetic structure and everything. There will be a split. There will be a break where the butcher was doing the butchering. They're going to be vegan, so that's going to break, and they're not going to have that connection to animals where they use them as food. That's going to be broken. So truly, the new beings that are coming are vegan. They don't won't even be able to genetically do anything else. It won't even be in their field of possibility. So thank God for that.
it's interesting about DNA because there's whole sections that don't appear to be doing anything, as if nature gave us a whole bunch of, you know, sheet music that doesn't have anything on it yet.
Yeah, but you know what? That's a lot of space for us to evolve our consciousness. That's what
Right,
that is. What they call junk DNA is what we're
right.
doing with our gift and shadow work in these meetings. We're starting to light up that so-called useless. It's not useless. We just most people don't know how to use it because they've been dumbed down so hard by the powers that be and disempowered and discounted and everything this meeting is about. You know, shunted. So, as far as I know, everybody who is going to share of the shadow sequences has shared. I'm, as far as I understand, we can move on. I'll give it a moment in case I'm wrong, but after about 30 seconds, we can just take a moment of silence, everybody, if you wouldn't mind, and then I'll jump into the gift, unless somebody. But everybody who's spoken, if we could just give it a space now. We've covered the shadow, I think, plenty. Okay, so I'm going to stick with my theme, even though I love a lot of all the other themes that have been brought up in connection with this life code that I could also go into, but it's always good, whatever you start with, to keep that thread because it's your personal thread that's going to benefit you. So it's always good and it will empower you. So that's just a little principle of this kind of work is that even though you might really like what somebody else said and want to shift your theme and you can if you want, that's up to you. You'll learn from that too. But what I've always found is whatever your thread was, so for mine, it had to do with work in the world and empowering myself materially. And I'll just say from when I was young until I was probably in my mid 40s, I really just hated work anyway. Whether it was what I loved to do or what I didn't love to do, I just was just such a wanderer, and because my purpose and my gene keys, my purpose is the first gene key, which is pure mutation. All I ever wanted to do was just change, 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 change. I dreamed of a life where one moment to the next was never the same. And pretty much my first 40 years of my life was that, from all the traveling I did and all the spiritual teachers and masters and guides and mentors and through all kinds, through martial arts, through spiritual transmissions, through healing, through so many different modalities. And it really was a life like that. And I feel I was so enriched by it. I felt like I probably lived 10 lives in that first 40 years of my life. But at the same time, I had no ground under my feet. I was definitely a homeless wanderer. And that was the tradition for bodhisattvas back in the time of Buddha, was to live like that. And you know, if you were a smart bodhisattva, you learned some skills along the way. So no matter where you went, you're like me being a carpenter or teaching martial arts, I could do that anywhere. So I could always, wherever I landed, I could always offer my skills. And so I was kind of, in a strange way, a homeless wanderer who was self-made in the sense that I just created my own work wherever I went, and that worked for me. But and I really followed what I love. So it was, I was very prosperous, and I thrived in the sense of getting to know who I was, which I think is the number one priority of anybody on this planet. After that, you can find out what you love to do to share with the world, and it will really come through because you love yourself. But after about the mid-40s, I got this really almost, and it's because your nodes change midlife, your nodes change, and you literally go to the opposite. And I felt such a sense of settling, and thank God for so many reasons that I came, just several years before that, I came and met Amira because I feel really lucky that the settling part of the part of my life where I wanted to get grounded and be stable. And I'm not saying I've anywhere near even close to, getting that down, but at least I'm better than I used to be. Then I'm really glad I met her because she's tremendously helped me with the earth aspect of, you got to have roots for all those, wings and all that wing stuff that you're doing out there to go everywhere. You need the roots. And so the challenge has been, because a lot of the work I've done in the last 20 years has been just what I didn't do in my first 40 years, which was just, the opposite of that. And that was just do jobs that were very consistent, that made the bread and butter. And in a strange way, it's taught me truly how to discover what I guess most people wouldn't discover unless they were in hardship and decided to not give up and to use the hardship to develop capacities in themselves that otherwise wouldn't be possible to develop. So the prosperity I've experienced in this period of the gift of my circle, the circle of excellence that's unfolded for me, that I'm starting to share in meetings outside of this too, has developed in these last 20 years of kind of hardship, in the sense of having to work really hard and not getting a whole lot for it, and also not necessarily in fields where I would necessarily, like I did in my first 40 years, where I only did pretty much what I liked doing. I mean, I like building things, I like doing martial arts, and that's pretty much all I did. And but this last 20 years has been very different, and it's made me kind of had to prove, am I truly spiritual? Because if I'm truly spiritual, then I can go through hardship, which means doing things other than what I might choose, and still grow and still evolve and still develop spiritually. So it's been in that sense, been anything but easy, but it's definitely been rewarding in the sense of, I think I have grown tremendously inwardly, and Amira support and backing me in it, as difficult as I know it must be have been for her to also have to experience the hardship with me, has been one of the greatest blessings in my life. So, and that even made my heart flutter, because I didn't know that till just now. And that's a nice thing about the gift too. Sometimes it surprises you when you share things from your heart. Things can jump out that you weren't expecting. Hello, Carolina. Welcome to our meeting. You're welcome to just listen. We're deep, way down into the middle of the gift aspect of what we're doing, and please enjoy. If at a certain point you get what we're doing and you want to jump in, please do. I never have said that before, and I never got that that's what this was about. And I'm not trying to make 20 years of I'm not trying to rationalize 20 years of hardship, because there's definitely been hardship. But some incredible qualities I've been enriched by sticking with it and not letting it defeat me. So that's kind of the nitty gritty of the gift side of this life code for me. And That's all I'm going to say right now. So whoever would like to go next. I don't know if you have your hand up, Sarah, or you just forgot to put it down. If you have your hand up, go.
No, I had it up earlier, but I thought the moderator takes it down, but I think I can remove it, no problem.
It's true. I just found out I could remove it, and I think while I removed it, you removed it and made it go back up again. But now it's gone.
I'll go. This is Denise. Unless someone else was going to go.
You're going.
Okay, just saying hello again and turning off the video. Yeah, the circle of excellence, it's really been coming around. When you no longer compromise, then you really see what, or you're no longer in strife, then you really see what resonates with you, and you're then able to come through into this excellent place within yourself, but also within your connections with people that, and work and creations that fully resonate. And I really feel like that the entire earth is coming to this space of having lived in compromise and strife and coming into excellence and thriving. So we're all growing to the space together. And in me, so I was talking about my compromised sexuality, or the strife in my sexuality, and not fully expressing myself in my nature, my innate brilliance and my innate excellence. And coming to that is like, it's like feeling the light tickles through my entire body. Like I consider the entire body orgasmic, the entire experience of life orgasmic. And I love that my life's work and my vocation in the Gene Keys is bliss, because that really makes sense to me, that everything is orgasmic into a sensual peace or tranquility of a joy. And so much of my life had been in strife and fear and sorrow. And then I faced everyone with that, and I wasn't able to be in my excellence because I felt like that my excellence was going to be shot down. And it often was, probably because of my fear of it, or I wasn't around the right people. And I had these strange networks of feeling driving me and living inside of me that had me connect with the not excellent part of people. And so now in this time with COVID, I've taken a step back and returned home and have all my safety comfort items with me, and started some Zoom meetings and brought all the people that I've met on my travels for the last 30 years or 20, however long, and brought them all together in one place. And really, like, everywhere I go, I kind of met the most excellent people in a certain kind of paradigm that I can relate with. And that is just bringing about a group of excellence, and then also potential creation of excellence amongst all of us. And that came from me realizing my excellence, or that I can thrive, and that I can feel the joy and love coursing and streaming through me as prana, chi, and mana, through my body, but also throughout my networks, and how I interlink with people and what we create together. And I'm just seeing the emergence of that excellence and thriving through my heart and my cells of my body, and the light of my body in these elevated conscious emotions and experiences and vibrations. And it's contagious. So that's the new meme, that's the new virus that's gonna come take over the earth in bliss, love, and light and joy, celebration of creation and together.
Thank you, Denise. I think that is the new way that we're going to walk. The wakers and those that are already woke. It's what you just said. That's kind of the platform that's opening now for people who are choosing to step out of the old paradigm, which is literally like stepping out of the cocoon into being a butterfly. So I like that metaphor more and more. It's very user friendly. Thank you, Denise. That was I like that. Since I'm a part of that too, I like that. Definitely. Beautiful. Who would like to go next? I guess I'll just add, because I know sometimes it can be interesting because we all want to. I get the sense everybody really wants to come from a real place in themselves. So sometimes it takes a while, and other times you just maybe just don't want to talk. But what I will say is that the gift here, more than anything else, is about whatever in your life right now is powering your direction. Not what your direction actually is and how it's being powered. Whatever that is. I mean, the gift is it's not about, right or wrong or anything. And it's certainly not about what, we've covered the shadows. So the bottom line is we all have a direction we're going right now. So the relaxing into that and saying and owning your direction right now and sharing from that space, just because it's pretty simple. I mean, it's and yes, it may take something to get into that, but that's what it is. So what is your direction that that you are whatever it is that you're unavoidably doing and into, and what's pulling you. So we're talking about the now, because this is also a gate very much of the now, right now. And it's also mutative, so it's bringing about change because we're all in change right now. That's kind of obvious.
Hello. Yeah, I'd like to share and speak into the change and the moment that I'm in at the moment, the direction. Thank you for that clarity. I guess with Paradise Rising, which is me, it's just my life. The direction that we're going with that now it's so much more clear to me now, because I do fully embrace and I fully embody, and I love myself, and I love what I'm doing, and I understand myself on so much more of a deep level, that I get what it is that I'm doing. I get what it is that I'm working towards, and where we're going, what I'm looking for. And I know what it is. I can see the vision so much more clearly, that I'm able to manifest it much more easily. And I think that's just this week with the this job that I've just got is a clear indication. It's big confirmation for me that, I mean, it's also kind of ridiculous, the number of synchronicities in terms of numbers and patterns and things that I'm seeing in nature and everywhere around me. Everything just at the moment is so clear. I've never had it like this before. It's just so in flow. And so all these little things and some of the bigger things like this job coming are really giving me confirmation and excitement for where I'm going, because it's not been easy. As with all of you guys and everyone in the world, I guess everybody goes through these difficult times, and it's taken a lot to get to where I am now, but I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing, And really it's just a matter of kind of grounding it all and putting systems in place and kind of turning the non-physical vision, the ideology, and embodying it myself, and then it kind of can be embodied in what Paradise Rising will be. And because it is a collaborative community thing as well, it takes on the personalities of the people that I work with, and everything that comes from these kind of meetings, and like the spiritual communities that I am connecting with. And yeah, it's super interesting to see how the physical expression of what I can see and what I'm working towards is all just kind of coming in all these different directions. Like this case in point with this card, just so funny. It always makes me laugh how on point they are. And I've been, because I'm similar to you, I think, Tamendra, I've always been very much a traveler, a wanderer, not really having roots anywhere, not really wanting to put down roots, but now I'm looking for a bus to convert to turn into a home, so I can have that root chakra sorted, basically. So I have a home of my own for the first time in 6 years or something. I've just been traveling pretty much most of that time, and it's been so exhausting, and now I'm really just ready to have somewhere to be cozy and call my own and have it exactly how I want. And it's vegan and it's all the good stuff. And I've been looking at some of these architectural, it's called Architectural Digest, some of these videos on YouTube, to kind of help manifest and just get ideas of how to fit things into the space. And some of the homes of all these rich and famous people. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the kind of upper echelon of the people in the world as well, who hold so much of the resources, and how happy or unhappy they might be. I'm not gonna say this person looks happy, that person doesn't look happy. I don't know, but I can feel that maybe it's just my hope, but I do feel that the distribution of resources in the future is going to be much more even, much more ethical, and it's about consent, as you said. They've not them specifically, but the people who own pretty much the world have just taken it all without really any kind of consent. But I can also see that some of the rich and famous, the Hollywood or musician or whatever kind of peeps, the ones who are going vegan, or at least care about the world and are waking up or are woke, I get this sense that they are going to be around for a long time, or a lot longer, in whatever shape, form that might take, because they are there. There's some of them who might not have as much money as some of the others because they've given a lot of it away. But yeah, it's just been interesting kind of diving into that world for the first time, really. And I don't really connect with that world anymore. When I was younger, I was like, because I've always been kind of somewhat of a performer and I love acting and stuff, but I haven't really looked into Hollywood for a long time. But now, just in the last couple of days, just looking into some of their homes and just seeing how they live, it's super fascinating. And yeah, it's fun, I guess, for me to be looking at that aspect of my life, and bringing in the not yet now of my being, of the way that I'm going to be able to live, with a bit more stability and a bit more self-reliance, because I really don't like relying on other people to have to stay somewhere, or house sitting like you, Sarah. Obviously right now it's pretty difficult. I can't really do that. So yeah, I'm excited to be moving into that next phase, and all the art and creativity that's going to be coming with Paradise Rising and what we're really now focusing on. So yeah, excited for all of that, and that's what I've got for now.
Cool, thank you, Lucy. And that's kind of the trend that's coming for the people like us who have been kind of in a limbo for the longest time and just developing our inner qualities. Is just mark my words, watch the next 10 years. The power shift is going to be mind-blowing. And the people who now think they control it are going to be becoming more and more ever so dependent on the people like us, because they're going to see that that's what Mother Nature is going to be favoring, because Mother Nature's upgrading, and Mother Nature's going to keep around those who are upgrading too. And it's just going to, and of course, like everything Mother Nature does, we have no idea how that's going to happen. It'll be in the most crazy possible way. Look how these Zooms all have come about through a COVID-19, whatever it really is. In Italy, they're finding out it's not even, that it might be some bacteria and it needs a whole different approach, and it's not nearly as what they're blowing it up to be. They're doing that as a money scheme for the super rich to get richer with vaccines and all that crap. So there's even that coming up, which I tend to think is probably correct. So, but more and more that's going to get exposed too, and more that's just going to dissipate, because the more you expose the darkness, the quicker it dissipates. So go, Donnie, go. Keep being the idiot you are, because man, you're just going to help it go so much quicker. And we thank you for that. Boy, that was a good way to be cynical. I like that. That was good. Okay, who would like to go? Thank you, Lucy. Who would like to go next? I'll even give a little bit more opening for people to step into, if that, I don't know if that's needed or not, but a bigger platform never hurts. Is to think about where are you feeling your power growing now in your life? Because thriving is a big word, circle of excellence, those are big words, and that kind of covers a lot of things. But if we get right down to it, it's like, how are you feeling more empowered these days? That's also part of the expression or experience of the gift of, empowerment. Hello. It's empowerment. It's also prosperity, because how you flower in all the different dimensions of life, including the physical. But that's a very open. So
I'll share on that. So yeah, I guess the thread that I had initially started working with was similar to you, Dharmendra, where I'm thinking about like my job and my kind of my livelihood and in the work sense, but I've also been kind of faced with this, with like a lot of questions about like, what am I doing and why am I doing it, and if the why isn't good enough, then I need to like keep asking questions and move on. And I know for me, my art and my music is it just becomes more and more clear to me how special that is. It's one of those abilities that I've taken for granted since I've been musical. Ever since I can remember, it doesn't feel like it just feels like an extension of me when I sing or write a song, and yeah, I guess through kind of working on my discernment and observing myself more, I've realized that the path of the artist and the musician is a totally viable path and a totally like a necessary thing in life is like people. There have to be people that are making music and are making art, and I'm one of those people that I feel like I have to be doing that. Um, it's just so apparent to me every time I finish writing a song afterwards. I'm just like, wow, it is ridiculous. I'm not doing this all the time, because it's like the best way for me to process my emotions and kind of play around with my subconscious and conscious mind. And so I've felt sort of empowered in the last couple months, like just looking into the future and then lining up the circumstances which are gonna benefit me in the way, or that are gonna benefit my practice, like my music practice. And I've become excited about that, and then it kind of puts any work that I have to do, when I put it in perspective, it's like a very small sacrifice to be able to lead the life I want and process all my emotions and do all of these extra and really important practices that couldn't be done if I didn't have that foundation. And I think that's something I've definitely been lacking. I know when I initially got out of school, I anticipated that I would be a traveler who was not going to settle for a long time. And I did travel for like 6 months. And I thought I would be more creative while traveling. But what I've come to realize is, for me and for my process, like I really need the foundation and this comfortable place where I can stand on and work from. And just by recognizing that recently, that's been really empowering for me.
That was really beautiful, Evan. A couple different things is I love the way you took the gift from last week and weaved it into the gift of this week, because one thing I haven't spoken about is that as we're going from 1 through to 64, which is my intention with this Synergy Meditations, we'll go through all 64 of our genetic codes, but it's also the ultimate tarot. And that's the way it was taught by the guy who brought this, the human design into the world. Is he did one time a 6-hour thing where he went through all 64 and went through the entire evolution of human consciousness through all 64. And he said, this is the ultimate tarot for us, because it's our genetics. It's really what is the fabric that makes up all of our vehicles to be able to experience from all the different dimensions what it is to be human. So that is the ultimate tarot. And so when you weaved from, and it is a sequence for a certain reason, and the fact that your discernment led you into this empowering experience, I just that was very intuitive of you to open that in that way. And intuition is, of course, a gift frequency possibility. So I thought it was very beautiful, and also how you're looking at your music and stuff, and giving that space, and also seeing how it can relate to being stable. And it was really nice. I just didn't see any strife in there. I saw everything trying to work together to make something arise that would be empowering. So thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody who hasn't shared would like to share at the gift frequency of empowerment we'll give it another little bit, and then otherwise we'll jump into the sit-up.
I have a question. I was thinking how, we are still in this very dark period of humanity. We've never really come out of it. And I wonder if is that a necessary part of our evolution to experience that?
Yeah, we are because we're part of the imperfect part of existence, and there is parts that are what you would call, at least compared to this, perfect, that don't need to go through this struggle and strife. But existence, when it got down what it was like to be, quote quote perfect in the sense of, minus strife and unnecessary suffering, let's call it, then we became the next stage in evolution, which is, okay, so if we can handle that, then now existence is ready to handle strife and suffering. So we're the warriors, the true heroes that were made to go through this phase and come back in to find our innate perfection. And all that means is not a perfectness, a stale heavenly where nothing ever changes, it's all perfect, but in the sense of just everything unfolding in exactly the way it should, and you're in pure flow. That in that sense of perfect, which is just the most groovy thing you can imagine, because you're constantly opening to new discoveries of who you are and how to manifest it. So, but we have to go through the struggle and the strife, and who knows, and once we pass through it, then existence will be enriched by our experience of that. So that's a nice way to actually kind of sneak into the siddha, where the way you phrase that question, because it kind of asks for what is the, what is all this for? Well, it's to discover the bounteousness, which is a beautiful way of expressing the locus of manifestation of a cornucopia, which is the siddha. So in order to reach that, the way we were designed and created, we have to go through the strife and the struggle. And even the universe doesn't know what that ultimately is going to end up as and look like until we get through it. And that means those that are waking up and those that are woke. The others that have to go back to the beginning, well, that's a whole nother grand cycle that we're not going to be involved in, because luckily we're part of this woke and waking cycle that's going to get to move forward and see what it is that's going to open for us once we pass through this struggle and strife. But yes, we're designed for that, or we wouldn't be here. So yes. And it takes, I haven't even worked through all the ramifications of what, but it's in its infinite wisdom. That's what was created after the perfect, central paradisiacal emanation of everything. Then it was like, well, okay, what don't we know? Well, we don't know strife and struggle. So let's create beings and worlds where that is. Well, it makes sense. I mean,
so we've all been an asshole at one point, huh?
Have you actually gone beyond that, honestly?
A lot more than I was when I was like 14 or so. I remember going through a year where I was just a horrible person, and I came out of it later thinking, I couldn't believe I behaved that way to people.
Oh yeah, oh God, I was just the most ruthless black belt martial artist, rip your head off. If you make one slip, in my opinion, of what, an integrated and centered person should be, oh my God, I was ruthless. Oof, yeah, I get you, yeah, total asshole. Agreed. What a funny thing and that's another way we can slip from the gift into the siddha, is with a little giggle. That's always fun too, especially when we poke fun at our own past, because that's one of the best ways to find humor is in our younger years. And what, my God, we did to think we needed to get by was just really fascinating. That's for sure. And with that, I think we will go into the siddha. And I just am so grateful for the last 6 or 7 months of my life, because I realize now that I've been empowering the heck out of myself relentlessly. And without asking for a thing from anybody else, I said, if I'm going to wait around for people to come and recognize me and give me something for what I do, then it's probably never going to happen. And especially, I again have to acknowledge Amira and her beautiful support and always behind me all the way, that probably gave me a lot of gumption to do what I did, to start meeting people and start doing this kind of stuff and start realizing, hey, this is a platform where I can start sharing accelerated collective evolution. I mean, and that to me is my siddha in the world with this, on this particular life code. This is how I turn myself on, turn people on, get them in touch with their direction. I mean, I'm the future Sphinx in my genes. So that, and for many people who I've done deeper work like this with, they say we always love it when you come into our life because it always makes everything change in a new direction, and it's always a good direction. And it's like I say, well, thank you, that's great, and it's too bad I missed the fact that your change happened because I have to go back to my life and do whatever I do because I only have so much time to spend with people like that. But what I'm finding in the reflection I'm getting is that I do have something wonderful to contribute to the world, and it's overflowing me. I can't stop it anymore. That's hence the bounteousness, which is another word for the siddha here, as well as cornucopia, horn of plenty. It just means you're overflowing finally with whatever is truly connecting you with your reason for being, and in this time, in this place, not ultimately, but certainly here in this situation I'm in. And it brings me great joy, and I see that it helps people get in touch with their joy in so many different ways. And so I'm overflowing with that, and I'm overjoyed with the fact that that this platform is here, and like I say every week, I'm being introduced to more beautiful people through Denise, and through people I've met through Denise, and through this platform, through Sailesh, and how I got connected into this, and in so many different ways. Things are I'm starting to have connections with people that, as I share who I am, they want more people to know who I am, and that just blows my mind, because it's like I'm no longer the guy that's just going to hide in the cave and write out my incredible formulas of all the experiences I've had in my path of awakening. Now I'm actually going to be able to share it in such a way, and I find that I have the skill to share it in such a way that other people can do that too, because I think it's much more interesting to have a circle of awake people rather than just one awake person and everybody else, climbing the walls trying to wake up, but can't quite figure it out. That paradigm's going too. That's the old spiritual paradigm that's going. The new spiritual paradigm we're stepping into is a collective awakening, and the emphasis ever so much. And I love the vegan platform because it so supports literally from the ground up that there is no more harm being done in any way, intentionally or consciously, and ever so quickly, even the unconscious ways are disappearing very quickly from anybody who steps into the world of the way of peace. And the only way of peace that's a true way of peace starts with veganism. Anything less than that is not a way of peace. It's not real, because it still involves some violence somewhere against some being, against its will, without its permission, for somebody else's benefit. And whenever you proffer from somebody else's suffering, that's not truly peaceful. So there's just so many beautiful things I see that are starting to flower and come about through this, especially the Zoom platform, another platform that's allowing us all to come out and start to share not just our gifts, but our connection in a real way with what turns us on, what makes us totally alive, what makes us juicy, what makes us orgasmic. I mean, because what orgasmic means is just you're dancing with the whole of existence, with you're in prayerfulness with the the universe. You're dancing with the universe. That's what, to me, orgasmic means. I mean, how could that not be? The amount of energy and the beautiful harmony and all the different things. I mean, and when you're getting turned on, it's a lot easier to wake up, because it's much more attractive to wake up in that kind of a positive spiral than it is it being a lot of work and a struggle and, oh my God, what I got to go through to get that, So anyway, that's my opening of the siddha of this gene key. And so as you can see, it's pretty down to earth. I mean, some of them are really super holy and refined. This one has a lot of oomph and juice and aliveness and being a lion and roaring your truth, but in a way that's beautiful and uplifting, not in a scary way, in a way that makes everybody else go, yeah, I got that too. Yes, let's do it. Let's dance, let's dance our gift. I mean, our higher self, with our higher self.
these silences. I'm always waiting for someone else to go, but if they don't, I'm always ready to go. Yeah, the cornucopia, the manifestation, the bounteousness of life experience as it percolates and emerges through us. That's such a beautiful experience that we can all have. And I'm very excited about it. So yeah, I'm feeling the manifestation come alive of, for instance, my healing, my look into the Tantra and of experience within myself and in my connections, and also looking at how my energy moves through my body and thus how I interact with others. I'm always looking at that because it was so uncomfortable for so long, and now it's like it's becoming comfortable, and in that excellence and that light. And then what's manifesting is connecting with people in those spaces of where I've always dreamed I could be or was innately in that comfort zone of my embodiment and in my experience of relation with the world. So I'm not going to keep on saying the buts. We already know the buts because we did it in the shadow. So what's manifesting right now for me is my back actually shifting, the scoliosis leaving, like my bones changing shape. My bones were fused and the vertebrae were shaped like pie. But if with meditation every day on the thriving experience or the orgasmic nature experience, it's moving the chi through my body and manifesting a new form and a new shape. And it's also manifesting deeper and more profound relationships. And it's also manifesting not only all my years of visioning, conscious creations and entrainment systems and software and cloudware and technology and workshops and retreats and how the world could be and exchange systems and what if it were like this. I've been dreaming about this since I was a kid, about energy and trying to make it come through by developing software and stuff like that. But now it's like manifesting in my entire community, and like and everyone's been manifesting in their own silos for so many years. Like Dharmendra is saying he can finally come out and from his cave, and then I've been in my cave, and then all my friends have been in their cave. But this, being able to talk to each other on Zoom is allowing us all to come together and be like, hey, I recognize you, and hey, I recognize what you're wanting to create, and hey, I'm creating that too, and hey, there's money for this, and hey, let's make a business, and hey, how do we do that, and what do we need, and hey, oh, there's more people coming in, and hey, someone else is paying for them to help us. So it's really manifesting in like, yeah, all of us in our cave are coming into this bounteousness space of merging the consciousness, because we've been our truth within ourselves, but even though we didn't find it in our immediate surroundings or our communities, or we found it here and there dappled around, now all those dapples are coming together into merging space of group creation. And this is the healing of us individually and the earth altogether, of thriving humanity. And that's what I see manifesting. And it's also manifesting from changing the systems within, and actually my form, my own personal form, but also systems of interaction and systems that we're all interconnected and woven with on earth. And I think, I'm just a small symbol of what's happening systemically throughout the world. And I still believe in my healing and being 2 inches taller. Maybe I only need 1 inch more at this time to be my nature. So thank you for listening. I am complete.
Thank you, Denise. Something in what you were saying reminded me that this this life code shares an amino acid, like all the life codes do in different groupings. This shares an amino acid with one other life code, which is the first life code, and it's the ring of fire. So if you can think of what fire does and how it spreads once it gets going, and it is in the beginning always a bit of a trick to get the right friction to get the fire going. But once you find the right flint and the right material that has fuel, then and once it gets going, and gets to a certain point, it's impossible to stop. And I think that's what also is starting to happen again with the people who the people that are waking up and are woke. And again, I'll just say, I think the perfect ground for that for that fire to start spreading is really supported by the way of peace, the vegan world, because the way of violence is the way of the old way, and it's maintaining through violence and all that, which is really, and it's okay from the Siddha to look into this because you have a more wider and more panoramic perspective, but the old ways are really raising their ugly heads right now, really trying to assert stuff, and they don't realize that their awareness is so powerful on them right now that it's literally going to dissolve their power. And so it's supposed to happen that that it's really reaching ahead, all the power, the misabuse of power. Anyway, that's all I'll say on that note. In the seeing through the Siddha and the fire.
I love that connection with the fire. That's amazing. I love fire so much. I didn't exercise the other night. One of these groups that I'm involved in, a spiritual awakening kind of group, a suggestion that was made in one of the live streams and one of the activations that we did with one of these people, he suggested writing down, and I think I've done it in the same kind of way before, but not quite to this extent, but I just wrote down everything that has brought me a sense of guilt and a sense of shame. So looking at the apparently most people will tend to kind of gravitate more towards one. They'll feel the sense of shame more than a sense of guilt, or guilt more than shame, or kind of a mixture of the two. And I definitely feel like guilt for myself. I know this is shadow stuff, but I've worked through a lot of those things to let go of that. One way that I did that was writing down the things that have brought me those emotions, and then burning it. And I burnt it outside the other night, just under the stars, just looking up at the sky, and it just gave me this really, really profound sense of peace. And later that night, I did have quite a bad dream that came up from one of the things that I wrote down about, but it's just having had that and being able to sit in that and experience that dream, and also experience that sense of release of just burning this piece of paper with all these things on it that just have brought me such negative or low vibration kind of emotions, was really so liberating. And because I'm a fire sign, and I just feel really super connected to fire, so that's really amazing that this week has got that connection there as well. Yeah, I think one thing, I was thinking about this earlier, I like to go into the bush in the mornings, and feeling the sense of nothingness in a way as well, something that's helped me over the last few weeks, after an experience that I had a few weeks ago, just coming to this place of like, I am nothing. I am no one. I'm just one with everybody. I'm one with nature. I'm one with unity consciousness. I'm we're all, you know, we say we're all in this together. And I really felt that for a few days, and it came back to me again this morning, and it's so liberating. It feels like just such a sense of relief and release, to let go of like that, the ego and the mind, because I've most of my life I've spent so much of my time in my head and not enough in my heart, and I'm really feeling able to bring it down into my heart now, and just really connecting with that heart space, and that the connectedness. I guess that's where everything kind of comes together, isn't it? It's like the what's the word, just that space where it's just the isness of existence, of consciousness. I really enjoy being in that space now, and yeah, I feel like I've just been able to let go of so much and release so much of a hold that my ego and that mind, the control that had on me for so long. And obviously, you know, with the ups and downs of life and the 3D-ness of having to do everything to make things happen, most of the time I just want to kind of stay in meditation and just like be up there somewhere and not really come back down to earth. But I'm finding the balance now of being able to do that and finding joy and love, being able to be in kind of both spaces at the same time. And it's really been a process. It's really been a learning curve to come to that. But I'm really feeling that sense of unity, of meeting in the middle of the groundedness, connected with the, you know, being in the quantum somewhere. And yeah, it's, I guess that's really manifesting in my life in what's actually manifesting right now. But I can feel that there are things just around the corner that I'm really excited about. And it's been a long time coming, because I've just lived off the bones of my butt for my whole life, pretty much. I mean, I have had a bit of money in the past, but really it's just not been, financially, I've always felt like this struggle. But I feel the sense of abundance now, and I'm so grateful for the abundance of energy. And as you said, Denise, like everybody who's working in this space and working in this field, and we have, I guess, cultivating the abundance mindset and bringing in the energy of that so much more now. It's really beautiful, and I can see it in the people that I'm working with, and I can really feel it myself as well. So I feel this really, really deep sense of gratitude, and I just feel I'm just feeling everything so much at the moment. Gratitude is the biggest one right now, though.
Beautiful, thank you, Lucy. Something you hi Sarah, glad you're back. That you said that is really kind of like the essential method of what we do in this work here is like when you wrote down those shadows and then you went and burned them. And I saw that like what true meditation is taking, because when we go up into our head and disembody, it's because we're afraid. It's because we don't want to deal with, or whatever reason, it's a drag, blah, 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 whatever the reason is, whatever our conditioning is, our resistance to meeting the resistance of the material 3D world that we all are incarnated into and are meant to, and it's all about the thing we were talking earlier with Nancy. Are we supposed to suffer? Yes, that's the badge we get. That's why we go through this, because we realize that the source, the spirit can also handle this and get through it and be enriched by it. So that's kind of a beautiful thing in a way, if you think about it. But also, I just love what you did. It's like coming in, bringing it down, and then lighting it up on fire. That's like true meditation is coming back down into your belly and just turning. And like in true tantra, it's about inner heat. That's the real tantra is very little to do with sexuality and 100% to do with highly refined spiritual technology, inner science technology of transformation is what it's really about. And it starts with the inner heat. And that fire that burns the shadow, that's the work of the siddha, because the gift can't do that. The gift, all it can do is stop feeding the shadow and start growing the gift. When you get to the siddha, though, it's a little bit more mature. It has to go back with the attitude of to use the gift as the tool now to literally transform the shadow in this while embodying the siddha, which is the only thing that can hold this is strong enough to stand in the space and allow the light to literally consume the darkness. So I thought it was really neat that just that simple little exercise. See, that's the beauty of 3D that we miss, that it literally is a beautiful poetic metaphor also, and that's that you're doing by that burning, that symbolic burning, you know. And another thing it made me think of is a beautiful, and a lot of what empowers my really deepest work, Periodic Table of the Angels and that kind of thing, that comes from a Russian mystic, Gurdjieff, who was probably the most badass enlightened guy who ever existed. What he put his disciples through, staying up for days on end and just working nonstop and anything to break the habit of unconsciousness. This guy did it, and he stayed there right with them. He wasn't like went off to sleep and came back. He did it too. And one of the beautiful things that he brought in, oh my God, I hope I don't lose it, because this was really a good point that I was reminded of in what you were sharing. Oh yes, is that the way he taught people to remember themselves, to observe themselves, to sense themselves, was not by going off and sitting on a cushion. It was by bringing it into whatever they were doing in every moment. And so self-remembering was about not losing it and getting into negative emotion in interactions with others. That was one aspect of the meditation he taught. The other was self-observation, not getting lost in fantasies and spacing out and not listening to what's happening in the communication you're having with people. And to remain present mentally with attention, right? And also to sense yourself when you're doing work and not just go into resistance and think about, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, but feel your body and the joy and the exertion and everything that's happening sensorially, self-sensing. And those were the three methods he taught that were his way of teaching meditation. I thought, what a beautiful way to do it, because then you don't have to remember how to come back out of the monastery and get back into the world and reintegrate. You're already so integrated all the way through. And so there's no time lag. And I thought, what a brilliant man to, no wonder he introduced a guy who was that grounded, that earthy. What a perfect guy to introduce something so light and so, higher frequency as angelic consciousness. That's where we get the Periodic Table of the Angels from. That guy who was so, just a Russian down to earth, I'll kick the unconsciousness out of you to hell and back. You better wake up, but he did it in a way, and nobody ever had nobody ever was hurt by that. He was a master, so he knew what he was doing. But that it reminded me of that too, for some strange reason, and maybe that can give you a sense of, I don't know, inner strength in having to face the 3D world. That it can you can get in touch with very unbelievable. You can channel that higher stuff in the 3D world, and that's the ultimate art. That is evolved through that self-sensing, self-remembering, and self-observation. So thank you. I just wanted to share that. It feels like a really nice, to give a little transmission in the siddha is always nice too, And by transmission, it means I understand what I'm saying, and I got it from a guy who transmitted it to me from his consciousness. Even though I never met him physically, I read his writings so much they literally became a part of my understanding of my evolution. So, and also met people who came from his system that I learned exercises from. So I did actually get some of the practical. So I could experience the method and not just the theory. Anyway, beautiful stuff. Thank you.
That if I can quickly share as well, that just reminded me of a story that I read in Becoming Supernatural. I just got this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And the forward, there's a story of I think he was Tibetan, a monk who spent huge amounts of time in a cave, and just the fact that we can really affect the physical 3D world around us with our with our minds, with our energies. He actually apparently was able to put his hand against the wall of the rock of the cave and push, and there are these indentations of his hands in the rock. And I'd never heard that before. I don't know if, have you heard of that? I can go and get the book and find the guy's name.
I've heard of that in many other instances, but I'll tell you now, you reminded me of another story. This guy Gurdjieff, he studied, he went in and literally dug out of the rocks ancient systems. And one of those ancient systems he got in touch with and then deciphered and figured out what they were saying, allowed him to do what's called object psychometrizing in the sense of whole civilizations. He could go into buried archaeological ruins, sit or touch the ruins, and literally go back through the history of what was in those rocks and what created those that archaeology. So if you want a nice story about what you can do when you put your hands or your body next to rocks that were ruins of old civilizations, that's I mean, I think that to me takes it even a whole nother level than, but it is an incredible skill to be able to, yes, to go into a, there are people on the planet, just like in the Matrix, kids and stuff in Russia that can actually bend spoons and things with their mind. It does exist. Those things are real. But I don't know how far you're going to get with that when it comes to waking up or woke. I mean, I would rather be a guy who could sit next to a ruin and get into the whole, history of that civilization that's stored in those rocks, because everything stores the frequencies of consciousness it's come into contact with. Especially, that's why crystals and things like that are so magical, and why they can enhance and influence your, what you do with your consciousness. Just a little tidbit there, fun stuff.
So Lucy, I actually just got that same book in the mail like yesterday, and I started reading it. Yeah, anyway, I think it was a story from about Milarepa. Yeah, and
Milarepa. He's part of the tantric Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism tantric lineage. Very profound fellow. That's all I'll say at this point.
yeah, I was definitely like, I thought that was an interesting way to start off the book, and I so like in combination with another book and just like lots of like video consumption on the topic, I've been really absorbed in the concept of manifestation recently, and I've known about manifestation and the law of attraction and things like that for some time now, but just been rather intimidated by the whole concept. But I've just I have been undergoing that sort of strife where I feel like I'm being subjected to these like unconscious manifestations, and so I feel like kind of the spark or the gift of empowerment was when I started to realize, I can dictate what my mind puts its attention on and focuses on and thinks. And then I know ideally that this is going to lead to manifestations, and like the cornucopia of like abundance is when when I felt empowered in that way. And I will say that in the last couple of weeks I've felt stronger mentally facing self-doubt than I have in the past. And I think this meeting is helping me kind of become aware of that and not take that for granted. Because I think sometimes when I'm making personal progress, it's really easy not to notice it. Like it's just like, like the slow growth of your muscles and bones. Like you don't notice it as a kid, and then all of a sudden you're 6 feet tall. So you have to have like a mirror to look into. And so this meeting has been really helpful to reflect on that experience of growing. And I'm just I'm very excited for the possibilities of more work like this, and yeah, I'm really grateful as well that there's this community, this Zoom community, where we can come together and we can talk about these things, because I feel like we're meeting on the kind of on like the edge of reality, discussing what's going on. And it's really helpful because I guess like in the 3D world, the majority of the people that surround me in my life don't want to think about anything that is going to, I don't know, like displace them, I guess, from the narrative that they're in. And like, fair enough, it's pretty uncomfortable, but yeah, it's so nice to have this space to kind of to open up and share, because I've had some times in the past where I'm not feeling that heart-mind connection, and I think this practice of like the open sharing is like super beneficial for me, as well as with like music, is to establish that connection with my body and my mind, because sometimes I recede into my mind, and I'm just internally horrified at the all the apparent chaos in the three-dimensional world, and how complex things can be. But also sometimes I'm terrified by how simple things can be too. There's something almost embarrassing about when the answer or the solution to your issue was so simple all along. And yeah, it's not complicated to talk once I'm talking, but in the time between meetings, it definitely feels challenging to express yeah, my own personal transformation. So yeah, I'm very grateful for this group. That is all.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, I just want something that I mentioned earlier that might have slipped by everybody, and I also want to say it for the benefit of the people who watch this later, is that one of the magical things about doing this kind of work is that all of us in the beginning are trudging through our shadows. But just like I said about what's being exposed of the darkness in the world and how that is dissolving because it's being exposed, and the only reason it kept going for so long is because it was hidden. Every time we share our shadows like this, guess what? Pieces a lot of the darkness of our own unconscious in all these different aspects of our genetic reality, which is, by the way, how we materialize all of ourselves. All 64 is the total potential of what we can materialize in this material world of our spirit. So the bottom line is, if we can go through all 64 shadows, we have basically started the process, and with some of us might even complete it in this time, of cleaning it all up. So then what are we going to do? Wow, guess what happens when all your shadows are clean? Then you get to be the animal in its natural, sensuous, real, grounded, down to earth, dreaming body, which is what we are the same as animals as in our genetics, being. So imagine what it would be like when you watch animals move and stuff, and the harmony and everything. Imagine you being in that body as a human. And now you don't have issues anymore on a shadow level, and you get to do that with your shadows. So in other words, it's just a natural, supernatural. I want to say supernatural because to us it is supernatural. The animals are so attuned with nature and everything, but that's what happens. That's the point of the work at the shadow level here. So just to remember that, and because I was pointing to it out there in the world, that beware the darkness that's being exposed is going to disappear, because that's what happens in awareness. It disappears. And then again, but take that into yourself. That's what we own. That's what we're owning in doing this work together. That's why, and I think because I'm a future Sphinx, and Lucy, you can relate, you're a future Sphinx too, is that what we're bringing into the world is where the world's going to go, especially when it comes to waking up and woke. This kind of work is going to become very standard in any business out there that wants to succeed. Everybody's got to be this attuned. And I'm doing this in other meetings And well, it's not, it's getting there, that people are starting to get ready to go, okay, we really want to get real about bringing good into the world. Well, guess what? We need to do this kind of work then, because we all need to get this intimate with each other if we're going to do something to change the world and have any hope of affecting it in a way that can make a trend that's consistent, that doesn't disappear, that is a part of what's going to become the future in a good way. Make sense? So those are things we can all own and take responsibility for. So when we do our gift, again, awareness makes that grow. It dissolves what doesn't work, and it makes, and the beauty of the siddha is you get to sit there and be kind of like the scientist who literally in one hand has the gift, in the other hand has the shadow, and it consciously knows how to do that work, not only with yourself, but with others. In fact, with any being. If you really start to understand siddhas, you can even do it with animals that have been through traumatic experience. You can even, because you're learning to also communicate with higher beings yourself. So that means you can also translate that to beings that aren't as high as yourself in terms of your full potential, not in terms of better or worse. To the universal life force, even all of it's one, including angels, animals, us. It's all that love is there for all of it. And that is the siddha space. But so all of that we're taking responsibility for and owning. Not just the dissolution of the shadow or the growth of the gift, but the ability to remain neutral, be the witness, be in that space of meditation where that process can occur consciously because you're doing good in the world with it, with others. You're taking it into the work. That's the third phase, the work for the work's sake, that's the siddha. With others, it's always your gift. And with yourself, keep your shadow to yourself. Unless we come into a space like this where we all can be so open that we can be literally like one entity, then it's okay, because then we're not breaking the rule. We're just doing it with ourselves, and everybody's just giving us, holding the grace for that self to open. So those are just some things to, because I don't always get into a whole lot of explaining how this training works, but I want you guys to be able to, eventually you're going to be able to do it too. So I want you to know how it works. And I won't get into it a whole lot. Mostly we'll just do the processes and you guys will just get it. But sometimes I think like tonight, because this is one of those life codes that I think lends itself well to getting a little descriptive about the actual unfolding of how, the details of it and what we're doing while we're doing it. So I just kind of wanted to add that in to kind of enrich and make the space a little more bounteous in terms of our understanding of what this life code is about. Are we coming to the end of everybody's, I love the part where everybody just, you can feel the silence in this space. It is incredible. It's so different than when we first come in. It's like a crowd and we've just entered a bar or something. That's where everybody's energy coming. I don't know if you ever notice that, but I pick it, everybody's like, and then we get into the shadows and we start to open it up and then, et cetera. But by the end, it's like, everybody's just like, whoa. And it's like, that's the beauty of it. It's like, this is the place we want to come to, because there is one more place you don't talk. It's a nameless place. The word itself means nameless. That exists even beyond the siddha. That I guess you could call silence, because there's no word for it. So it's beautiful when that happens just naturally. It feels like we're kind of, unless anybody else, has something they'd love to share, but it just feels so peaceful and silent right now. It's so wonderful and blissful. It's a wonderful space right now that I feel everybody, I could see it in everybody. It's a lightness and I don't want to say happy. It's more like just blissful. It looks blissful. That's beautiful. To me, that's a successful check, another successful meeting. Thank you all for doing your success too and contributing your success to this meeting as much as everybody. We all did. We all make this meeting happen. It's definitely not just me. And that's what I want to do. I want all of us to make this meeting happen every time. And I get that. I really get that from all of you. So I'm just tickled pink, and I have I have blissfulness all the way up here. It's just, yeah. So I really like that. I like it when in the end I'm getting off. And we should all be comfortable and normalize expressions like that, because we've all been taught that that's shameful, and it's not. It's really cool. Things like orgasmic and stuff are really quality experiences. We should be going like, fuck yeah, that's exactly what I want. Just sitting here like this. I don't have to, get undressed and get sweaty or do anything weird with somebody else. I can just sit here and be comfortable and peaceful. It's much more enjoyable for me at 62, believe me. But I'm not saying it is for, whatever. Everybody has to go through what they got to go through. And believe me, I went through it too in my younger years. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. But I enjoy it much more like this. Anyway, so that was fun. And I believe at that point, let's see. I opened it inspired by an earlier stuff I was listening today. Is there anybody who would like to end the meeting tonight? I'm not going to pick anybody. I just want to know if anybody if not, I'll do it. But if there's anybody who would like to bring this to a final crescendo synthesized, radical interconnectedness conclusion. Okay. That tells me everything. Okay, so let's just take a moment and breathe into the center of our spine, and kind of feel our nervous system as the gateway into a greater nervous system of the universal life force that through lines of light and love and life connect us to everything on all dimensions. And right through the center of our heart, just kind of literally a pulse that's allowing all of our hearts to stay beating the way it does, effortlessly on our parts. And let's just feel ourselves being beat by that pulse in our heart. And just kind of feel that rhythm and that dance and that cadence in our connection to the fire in our belly, and how that fire connects us with all the suns and sources of life everywhere throughout the universe, and that we are a sun also by virtue of that fire in our belly. That is also a brain that thinks in its own unique way. Our mind thinks in a certain way, our belly thinks in a totally other way, and our heart thinks in an even third way, even unique also. And between all three of those brains right now, there's centers for receiving the life force. So let's just silently acknowledge to ourselves that we are participants in this grand dance of existence. And we bring something to this life, and we mean something just by us being here and by us participating in this way. We allow the life force to express itself, and that has deep meaning because it's what sustains everything in existence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.